Morning, everybody. We got our Wednesday stream going. We're joined by our guy G Sports again. We've been going live usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday around this time. So y'all make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any other streams. Today we're going to be breaking down the latest LSU sports news, doing a little Heisman predictions, talking some NFL and NBA news. Remember, the stream Friday will be modified a little bit just because of the Manning Passing Academy. We'll be going live again on Monday. Friday we'll have a real short stream kind of previewing what we're going to be doing on Friday. But without further ado, let's hop right into today's stream. G, thanks for joining as always. And how's things going with you, man?
Good, man. Always good to get on the Verdin Verdict show and talk some sports, man.
And we had a good little episode yesterday. We getting the community together. We getting people
Yeah, man.
involved. We building the
Yeah,
squad.
man. Salt and pepper, man. Coming with that real information. You know how we do it.
That's it. We've been warning. Look, the takeover is coming. We're trying to let you know. We're not bluffing. We're not just sitting here at a poker table trying to make you think. We really holding a pair of aces about to take the whole river down. But let's get right into this stream. We got Trades Green just 100% embodying the two-sport athlete build that, we expected of him. We expected that he was going to be uber athletic. We expected him to be a problem for opponents. We expected him also to see in his freshman year some playing time on the gridiron. But I did not expect to potentially see him on the hardwood. That is going to be a whole new dynamic, and people are wondering, how big exactly is Trades Green? Well, according to LSU basketball's roster, LSU basketball, 6'7", 237 pounds. This is a huge forward. And then you look at his hands, his speed, his overall just confidence, mindset. This looks like the overall athlete. I mean, you kind of talked about him a couple streams back, and you were trying to, let everybody know. Put some respect on Trades Green's name, and then fast forward to yesterday, LSU basketball is like, yeah, you know what? I think we're going to have to put some respect on his name as well. What do you think about that? What was your overall reaction when you saw our tight end, our freshman tight end, go into the basketball side of things as well?
This has been Trades' dream to be a two-sport athlete, and try to take the route of playing basketball and football on a big D1 level. I know that Tasman Mitchell, the assistant coach, is very high on Trades, and he thinks that he could be a really good college basketball player. I kind of compare this to the same situation like Keon Coleman when he was at Michigan State, man. I see him doing his freshman year, and then once his freshman year ends, I think they sit him down in the exit meeting and have a plan for him that, if you want to be the best tight end in the country, you're going to have to go full-time with football. And so I think his future is in football. I think Trades Green has the kind of ability to where he can be a first-round draft pick. He just have some traits about him that you can't coach. And so although, again, I do think he can be a really good college basketball player at LSU, I think his money is in football. And so I think I see this playing out 1 year and then him focusing on football going forward.
And a lot of people, they don't remember Keon Coleman at Michigan State hooping. They don't remember that Buffalo Bills star rookie wide receiver taking it to the hardwood and being, I'm not saying he was a star big prospect, but he was a baller. He could hoop. And I feel like Trades Green is probably going to turn some heads as well. But that's probably his best interest. We kind of also talked, I believe it might have even been the same stream, about kids picking between basketball and football and just a plethora of opportunity that football presents. More players, more depth, more teams. I am interested to see how this kind of snowballs for Matt McMahon, because if there's anything that LSU men's basketball needed, it was a boost in the interest, in the fans' interest especially. I mean, I feel like putting a football player that, he's younger, he might not be a proven name, but this can only be something positive. I'm sure he doesn't play, 20, 30 minutes a game. I wonder exactly how big his impact will be. But I feel like it's just the overall situation. It could only help him, because now at this point in his career, as you transition from high school sports to college sports, you got two sports. You got 2 seasons. You got fall and honestly spring, because whenever football ends, basketball really picks right back up. So I feel like this could potentially be something that, eases him into that role in a primetime SEC school. It could be a blessing in disguise for sure. And then also, the worst case scenario that a lot of people are worrying about is maybe he's not as focused. Maybe something potentially happens during his time playing basketball for LSU. But I really only see the positive in it, honestly. I don't think, um, especially when you're an athlete like this, like we later on in this stream, we're going to talk about Heisman finalists and a couple of athletes that I think can play two positions, multiple positions, but multiple sports. That's a whole entire different fortitude. That's a whole entire different set of adversity that's going to forward you. All in all, my overall, analysis on this Trudez Green playing basketball situation is get ready, because I think he's going to be able to handle a lot more things on his plate once he does eventually, hypothetically, lock in and just do football. Now you're going to get an overall better football player because of it. And, maybe not. But that's just my take on it. I think if you're putting him in two different roles, two different situations, two different seasons, you can only get, a forged, veteran-minded athlete at least after this. At least on the preparation side, the fine, tuned skills.
Agree. And, like you just alluded to, man, when football season is getting ready to end, they're going into the middle of conference play for basketball. It's just too difficult, especially in one of the best leagues in the country, in the SEC. It's just going to be too difficult of a task for him to get in basketball shape, get into a basketball mode, if you will, to be able to play at a high level in that conference, man. And so, look, I wish the best for Trudez. I hope it work out. I hope he proved me wrong, because he's that kind of athlete, and I love his personality, and he's a good kid. So, I hope he proved me wrong, but I just know it's extremely difficult to be able to do that, especially at a school like LSU.
Oh, yeah. And it's difficult to just do one of them, but two of them is a whole entire different situation. I am excited to see, what it makes of him, though. I'm excited to see just the overall growth of this athlete, because, you've seen LSU recruiting a two-way star in baseball and football recently. And I mean, now you got one in basketball and football. It's like the two-way athlete is it's not a trend, but it's picking up steam. You got a lot more options that you could point to comparatively to a few years ago. Real quick though, before we hop into our Heisman predictions, to our Heisman finalist analysis, I got one more storyline that popped up that I have to talk about. We kind of picked some fun at Texas A&M or Tennessee. We kind of were like, well, the winner of the College World Series, of course, they're never going to let anybody hear the end of it, but the loser, it'll be a little funny. You got two SEC teams, two of them potentially rivals. A&M obviously more than Tennessee to LSU, but man, did A&M season end in the worst possible way imagined. Not to mention the fact that they entered their first College World Series finals game. This is A&M's first time in the baseball realm playing in the national championship, getting that far. Everyone in Aggieland, everyone in College Station was thinking, hey, A&M's on the way up. A&M is in a situation where we could be the champions. We could be the top dogs in the SEC. Finally. And then they lose in Game 3, but here's where the worst case scenario goes in. Press conference prior, head coach of A&M baseball says, no, Aggieland is my home. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to Texas. I'm not going to our rival. I'm not going to take the big check. And then the very next day, after A&M fans already have to watch everybody celebrate and lose their first national championship appearance, what happens? Their head coach goes to Texas 24 hours after saying he was not accepting the job. And look, this is business. When a coach says something, more often than not, it's a smoke screen. It's coach speak. It's this, it's that. But this situation here, all I can say is this is NIL wars. You've had two teams that have been prominent in the NIL space, buying this, buying that, writing checks this, writing checks that. Guess what? It is coming to bite you in the butt right now. And I'm not saying that don't write the checks. If you got it, you told me the other day with the Fred VanVleet situation, smoke them if you got them. If you got the money, spend it. 100%. Texas A&M, no, you did start this. You did open this can of worms, and now your in-state rival enters the SEC next year, and they took your head coach. This is an insane situation. Like I said, NIL wars. Did you see this on Twitter? What was your reaction? And just this whole situation is insane to me. I kind of liked watching it.
I just can't for the life of me understand why these coaches come out and say, I'm never leaving. I love it here. My family loves it here. You come out and make these statements, and then you leave. And I'm not faulting a coach for leaving, but man, just come to the podium and say no comment. Just come to the podium and say next question. I just don't understand for the life of me why these coaches continue to put themselves in these kind of situations to where they have to go back on what they said, and people will use that against you in recruiting. You see what I'm saying? And so
100%.
I just don't. Coaches need to learn, before they get ready to answer a tough question like that, especially if you know there's a chance that you could leave. Man, just say no comment. I'd rather not talk about that right now into the proper time, and just move on, man, instead of putting yourself in a bad situation like that. But look, I don't fault him from going to Texas. I don't know the dynamics and what went into the decision, but I'm guessing that they gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, and then that's why he's making it move.
Yeah, and it's been going wild on Twitter. It's been going running rampant. LSU fans kind of got worried a little bit when that Texas Longhorn baseball coach job opened up because people were wondering, is Jay Johnson going to take the bait? Is he going to bite the hook? And of course, LSU's head coach is safe and sound, but I don't know if A&M fans would have saw this one coming from a mile away. This is a rough situation for them, so we'll be keeping tabs on that one. But hey, that's the world of college sports that we're in, baby. Let's move into our main segment, Heisman finalist prediction. Now, this one was a little tough. A lot of players in college football. Plus, we're sitting here at June 26th. This is the way too early edition of predictions. You know what I mean? This is super, 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 super premature. But I feel like these four guys, I got an honorable mention. I got a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3. We did the finalists, the top 3, and then I threw somebody in there just because I feel like he's going to probably make a crack into the New York City suited 3, but it's really going to be contingent on that record. Let's start off with him. I don't want to put that cliffhanger out there and have everybody waiting. My honorable mention, Heisman finalist. I really like him, and like I said, I could see him being in the top 3. It's all contingent on really what happens in Missouri. I'm going to throw Luther Burden out there on honorable mention. Let me give you a little background on Luther Burden. First things first, 2023, great year for wide receivers. I mean, you had Marvin Harrison Jr., you had Malik Neighbors, but guess what? You had Luther Burden III as well. If you pull up Malik Neighbors' stats, 89 catches, 1,500-plus yards. Luther, 86 catches, 1,200-plus yards. He had 5 less touchdowns. He had 9. Malik had 14. Guess what? He's damn close. If Malik Neighbors is going to be argued by many to be the top wide receiver, and I mean, this one isn't an argument, but he's definitely the second best, if not the first, you've got somebody who was kind of, keeping up with him, kind of making some people nervous a little bit. Also, another stat that jumps off the page, at me at least, he crossed the century mark, 100-plus receiving yards, 6 times last season. Guess what? 2 different times, he was less than 4 yards away. He had a 97-yard game and a 96-yard game. So he really had over half of the season getting 100-plus yards. This cat's insane. He can get in the end zone. He can get vertical. He can honestly be a distraction and get everyone else open. I think Luther Burden is going to be the SEC's X factor in terms of the playmaker this year. There is another name in the SEC that I will kind of hold off. I'm gonna hold them to the end. But let me get through these Heisman finalists real quick, and I'll toss the mic to you, G. My third one, I'll throw Dylan Gabriel out there. This one was a toss-up. I know a lot of people are gonna get, what the hell, like Dylan Gabriel. The last 3 games last year, 2 of those games he had 400-plus passing yards. Not to mention, I do think I'm gonna compare him to someone, and this is left field, very, 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 very left field. I think. Not necessarily a play style, but the statistics and just the situation, very comparable to Jackson Dart. Both teams are in a proving year. Both teams reloaded. Both teams are probably going to be floating around the same record. I gave the nod to Dylan Gabriel because I see Oregon going a little further than Ole Miss. Their conference isn't as tough. They don't have as many tough games. Yeah, I mean, they could both be in the 10-win range. But if I had to flip a coin and find a winner in that close race, I'll give the edge to Dylan Gabriel. Let's see how that one turns out. My second candidate, you gotta throw him in there. Travis Hunter. How would you not throw Travis Hunter in here? He's a starting wide receiver. He's a starting cornerback. Not to mention, everyone's saying defensive Heismans. You haven't seen it except Charles Woodson in 1997. No defender has ever gotten close, maybe besides a
Shout
Tyrann
out to
Mathieu.
Michigan. Shout out to Michigan.
and I want to throw this out there about Charles Woodson. I mean, you're gonna remember this. Did he do it at the level of a Travis Hunter? No, but he played a little bit wide receiver. He did the special teams. He got active on that side of the ball as well as being a lockdown corner. Hey, guess what? Shout out to Green Bay too. Charles Woodson's that guy. And I'm not saying Travis Hunter is on par or exact because Charles Woodson's an all-time great, but he's getting close. I feel like Travis Hunter can do the cornerback one, wide receiver one. And if he's doing that, he's got to be wearing a suit in New York City when December comes around. My last Heisman finalist that I'll predict, and I'm going to toss it to you, G. I've been harping on this one. It should be no surprise to any of you if you've been listening. Jalen Milroe. I really think he's got the highest ceiling. I also really think if Nick Saban was in Tuscaloosa, everybody would be saying he's the number one player. I think Kalen DeBoer, is he Nick Saban? No. Is he a horrible coach? Also no. I think Jalen Milroe's an improving year. It's up to him on if he's going to fulfill and hit that ceiling. And honestly, he could break through the ceiling and go past it. Last year, he looked explosive. He looked phenomenal. And I'm just a big believer in, the underdog story, the proving everybody wrong. And I could be wrong here. And I think, out of these all of these finalists, I'm at least going to get 2 of them. I mean, I gave you 4. Let me at least shoot at a 50% clip. Luther Bird, honorable mention. Number 3, Dylan Gabriel. Number 2, Travis Hunter. Number 1, Jalen Milroe. G, let me hear what you got.
It's a nice list. I have a few of your candidates on my list, but I'm gonna go a different route, man. The most finalists you can have is 8, and so I have 7. My first one, I gotta go with Dylan Gabriel. I gotta agree with you on that one. What he did at Oklahoma and what he's done since he's been in college has been incredible to me. And going to Oregon, seeing what Bo Nix just did in that offense, I would imagine that Dylan Gabriel gonna have something close to that, if not better than what Bo Nix did last year. I think he's a better talent than Bo Nix. And then you got to think about the dynamic of having Evan Stewart, who transferred from Texas A&M, who I think is going to be a first-round pick. So that's going to play big dividends for Dylan Gabriel. Then you got somebody like Will Howard, the Kansas State transfer, going to Ohio State with all the weapons he's going to have up there with Travion Henderson, Ibuka, Jeremiah Smith, a true freshman, Junkins, the running back coming from Ole Miss. They got a lot of weapons up there in Columbus. So I think Will Howard will have an opportunity to, get in that 12-team playoff and also be a Heisman finalist. Then you got Cam Ward. That's at Miami. Cam Ward could have been a potential first-round pick this year. A lot of people say that he would have. And so I think he's going to do a really good job with Crystal Ball over there in Miami and put himself in a situation to be a Heisman finalist. Then you got Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, I'm gonna keep rolling the train with Joe Sloan and Brian Killian, man. I think Garrett Nussmeier with the weapons he got with Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, Mason Taylor, that offensive line. I think Garrett Nussmeier is gonna put himself in a position to be a Heisman finalist and have his team in that 12-team playoff. Shadur Sanders, right? When you look at the schedule that Colorado plays this year, man, the hardest team they play is Oklahoma State, which is the last game of the season. I think he's going to put up hella numbers. And then, he got 2 Louisiana guys in the receiving coach, so I got shout out to them, Will Shepard and Will Shepard and Amarion Miller. And then Travis Hunter going to be playing a little bit of receiver, so I think he's going to put up close to 5,000, maybe over 5,000 yards passing, and they're going to be probably 11-1, maybe 10-2. And so that's going to put him in a good position to be a Heisman finalist. His teammate, Travis Hunter, somebody you had on your list, I think he's going to do great and show the world that he's elite at both positions, corner and receiver, and a little bit of returning. And he's going to have a couple Heisman moments, I think. And so I think he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate. And then the last but not least, man, Harold Perkins, man. I told you I've been getting rumblings in the building that Harold Perkins might play some running back. And if that happens, along with how Blake Baker plans to use him on defense, don't be surprised if Harold Perkins is a Heisman Trophy candidate. If that goes the way I think it might end up going with him playing a little bit of running back, and you got a little dose of it in the bowl game against Wisconsin.
Hey, the viewers know they just clicked on the stream. The thumbnails got Perk and Travis Hunter, and I bet you some people were confused when they were clicking in. They're looking like Harold Perkins, bold
Mm-hmm.
2024 predictions. What's going on,
We're
Perk?
gonna play.
No,
Hey,
I agree.
we're gonna play this back in January for the Heisman finalist time. And let's see if me and your list kind of matched or who had more candidates on the.
Yeah, bookmark it. Everybody bookmark. I'm gonna have to make a note. I think. Look, if
Yeah.
Harold Perkins is in the top 3, I'm going to New York. Straight like that. We gotta see. We gotta see number 4 walk across that stage. And then if LSU goes back to back, plus you got 3 Heisman's at that point in the last 5 years. Don't even get me started. You got 60% of the field in Baton Rouge taking home that big old bronze trophy, joining the Heisman house. That'd be insanity.
Real talk.
It's a good moment to segue into our next segment, top NFL quarterbacks. We just talked about all the Heisman's LSU's winning. 2 of the Heisman's in the last 4 years. You got Joe Burrow, you got Jaden Daniels. Both of those going to be some pretty big named quarterbacks for years to come. But right now, this year, 2024, our top 5, we're going to roll into this one. This one was a little bit harder. I think the Heisman one was a little easier. Names like Travis Hunter, Dylan Gabriel, those names were, it was like I got it. This one, you had to get creative with the top 5 NFL quarterbacks. You had to really, really, really think. And I'll go bottom up. I feel like going from number 5 to number 1 just makes the most sense.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
Number 5, I'm going to throw, as a Packers fan, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. And I know I'm going to shock a lot of people saying this. Number 5, Jared Goff. Here's why. Second highest touchdown total in his career last year. The only other season, it was during that Super Bowl run in Los Angeles, during his peak, if you will. Last year, close NFC Championship game. He has that chip on his shoulder. Plus, they have proven to you that they got right there. Did they get the job done? No. But Detroit had their moment against Los Angeles. In Detroit, they had their playoff moment, finally. And they perform. And they get their old quarterback out of the stadium. And they have their moment, and I think that it's going to carry over. You can't, at least in my opinion, you can't see a quarterback entering prime numbers, record numbers, and expect him to just fall off instantly. At least not me. I'll give Jared his credit where credit is due. Number 4, maybe another head scratcher for some people. I'll explain it. Aaron Rodgers. I know, getting older, recovering, got a horrible injury last year. I mean, that was heartbreaking. I just can't leave him out of my top 5 list. I think he's so talented, and I think really, I mean, you've seen him win the back-to-back MVP awards after getting written off and they draft Jordan Love. You don't know what he's capable of. Plus, look at the squad he's got. You got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall, hello Mike Williams. I think this is a very dangerous unit. You see him in his final year in Green Bay throw for over 3,300 yards with a bunch of young wide receivers he's never played with, a bunch of 2-year guys, a Christian Watson, a Jaden Reed. There wasn't really any huge pieces in that room to bolster it. Now he's got them. I'm interested to see as well as that division he's in. I think he can run that table, but that's just me. Number 3 NFL quarterback, I'm going to go Joe Burrow. Shout out LSU, highest paid quarterback ever also. Come on. But here's my thing. Red flag, Joe Burrow, and Bengals fans and just any Joe Burrow fan in general. You need to stay healthy, Joe. I know it ain't in your control, and I know injuries, it's freak accidents. It's not something that anybody plans for, but he's had a huge ACL injury. Last year, the wrist bangs him up, only keeps him in for, 10 games. He misses almost half the season. When he plays in its entirety, like his first full season in his second year, what do? Go to Super Bowl. He can perform, and he can actually, push his team if he's on the field. I really hope that he can consistently stay healthy this year. Not to mention, we got to put a big note on the entire team as a whole. They lose Tyler Boyd, and they're in the middle of a huge contract drama situation with T. Higgins and a little bit with Jamar Chase as well. I think they get them both ironed out. I think he keeps both of those pieces. But they do have that uncertain feel in that room. So, I mean, that might play a role into it, might not. I think Joe Burrow's still very talented, still going to be at number 3. Here we go. This is the easiest part of the list. Now I'm getting loose, man. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Come on, we're talking about record seasons. Not only does he lead the Ravens in rushing yards, last year he's coming off a record season, the most pass yards, the highest completion percentage in his career. The number one thing any Lamar Jackson critic is going to say is, "Oh, he's not a quarterback. He doesn't have an arm." You heard the same thing with Jaden Daniels. Look at what he's doing last year. He's fixing the problems. He's getting more accurate. He's throwing the ball. Had the most attempts in his career last year anyway. I think Lamar Jackson has to be your number 2 guy. Plus, nobody wants to mention, pair him with Derrick Henry. Have fun, defensive coordinators. That's hell. Hell on a football field. And the number 1 quarterback in the NFL. Let's all say it at the same time. Patrick Mahomes. There's no debate at all. 3-time champ. Travis Kelce's coming back. Plus, you get Hollywood Brown in Kansas City with Andy Reid. I mean, did they even lose Tyreek Hill? I'm joking. I know Tyreek's probably your best wide receiver. But what I'm getting at is they reloaded again. How do you win back-to-back Super Bowl championships and reload again? Only answer I have for that is because you're the best quarterback in the NFL, quite frankly. So my list, number 5, Jared Goff. Number 4, Aaron Rodgers. Number 3, Joe Burrow. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Number 1, Patrick Mahomes. G, what's the top 5, man? Let me hear.
Yeah, I like the top 5, man. We got some similarities once again. And I'm going to start from the bottom up just like you did. I'm going to go with it, number 5, man, Trevor Lawrence. I'm a huge Trevor Lawrence fan. Been watching him since he was a true freshman at Clemson. I thought last year he dealt with some injuries, and that's why you saw some inconsistency from him, and that's why I think with the end of the season, 9-8, I think another year in Doug Peterson offense, add more weapons. You know, they lost Calvin Ridley, but you added Brian Thomas, shout out LSU, and you added Gabe Davis, and then to go along with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and that running back and Etienne, I just think that Trevor Lawrence is bound to have a really good season and put this Jaguars team back in the playoffs, and he's going to mark himself as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I think he's that good. He just got the bag, and I think he's motivated as ever to prove that he's deserving of every bit of that money, that $200 million he got. And number 4, I got to go with C.J. Stroud, man. Big C.J. Stroud fan. Love what he did as a rookie. Threw for 4,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. That's very impressive when you see a rookie quarterback come in and don't turn the ball over like that. And you know what he did. You know he had at his disposal with his weapons. You know, with Tank Dell and Nico Collins and Robert Woods, Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz. Now you add Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, bro. The offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, who came from Kyle Shanahan in that 49ers offense, he did a great job in year 1 with C.J. Stroud. And I would only imagine that he's going to have an even better year. If he threw for 4,100 yards this year, I think he's going to go for 5. I think they're that good. And then you got a head coach like DeMeco Ryans, who's a good leader of men, and he got that defense rolling with Will Anderson and Derek Stingley Jr. Shout out LSU once again. We just keep talking about LSU players. Like, goddamn. But I just would imagine that C.J. Stroud is going to mark himself as a top 5 quarterback in the league, and the Texans are going to be one of the better teams in the AFC. Number 3, shout out LSU again, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, like you said, though, man, you got to stay healthy. He lost Joe Mixon. He lost his tight end, Irv Smith, but I just think that he's going to figure it out. Joe Burrow is that kind of competitor. He's that good. And when you got arguably the best receiver in all of football, Jamar Chase, and I know T. Higgins going through the contract situation, but they're gonna figure it out and get him back out there. This Bengals offense is gonna be one of the best in the NFL, especially if Joe Burrow stays healthy. Number 2, Lamar Jackson, the MVP. I mean, come on, he's a video game. When you watch, it seems like you're watching a video game. When you're watching him, he doesn't really have too many flaws. I mean, no matter what defense you throw at Lamar Jackson, it's gonna be tough to game plan and stop him. You just gotta hope he having a bad game. He's that elite. I think this is the year that Lamar Jackson, forget the MVPs, right? I think this is the year, especially with adding somebody like Derrick Henry, who can give you that short yardage back, that back that can make plays, when the game is on the line, when it's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, in the fourth quarter in these tight games where Lamar doesn't have to always rely on his legs to make a play. He got that bell kind Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is motivated as ever to prove that he still got something left in the tank. So I think this is the year that Lamar Jackson gets to the Super Bowl. So that he's number 2. Number one, man, come on, Pat Mahomes, man, stop playing. Stop playing. This guy continues to prove all the naysayers wrong. He lose Tyreek Hill. He lose a bunch of key pieces on defense. He lose Nicole Harmon, but Nicole Harmon ends up coming back, and he played a huge role when he came back. It doesn't matter what you have out there for Pat Mahomes. He's going to make the most of the situation. Nobody expected them to win the Super Bowl last year. When you put Pat Mahomes on the field, I don't care if you give me 10 practice squad players. He gonna make the most of it, and they're gonna be in every game. He's that good. I think Pat Mahomes is the best NFL quarterback in the league, and then everybody else is just playing for second place. That's just how I feel about it. He's that good. So that's my top 5, man.
I agree. Yes.
I do think C.J. Stroud could end up moving up on this list to number 2 or number 3 when we look back at the end of the season.
The CJ Stroud situation is very, very, very interesting because you do see those 2 moves, the Joe Mixon and the Stephon Diggs move, and you can only think if they play to their potential, to their expectations that everyone has of them, the Texans have just instantly rebuilt their squad. The Texans have and when I say rebuild, I'm going to use that term loosely. They were in the playoffs last year playing against the Ravens, doing pretty well, beat the Browns at home. Went to the Ravens. I know it was a loss, and I know that they didn't have the game everyone expected. It was a real low-scoring game, and C.J. Stroud had his early turnover issue. But I think, that's year 1. You don't even have to begin to worry about somebody like a C.J. Stroud, or I'll even dial it back to number 5 on your list, Trevor Lawrence. That's a pure winner. The kid won throughout his entire high school career, throughout the entire college career. Does he run into roadblocks in Jacksonville? Of course. But there's plenty of games that you can dial it back to, whether it be the playoff comeback when they were down and he rallies the team back in the second half. There's a lot of interesting parts to him in this squad. They're in win-now mode. They give him the bag. It just shows that the situation that they're in. And one more player, I didn't put him in the top 5. I gotta give him honorable mention. I'll throw Justin Herbert out there. Why does it hurt? Because they lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. That whole team is different. I mean, last year, those were your top 3 guys. Sometimes that offense, honestly, I'm not even going to say sometimes. For the most part, even over 2-3 years, that offense was explosive. They had at points or at times the most points scored, sometimes the most yards gained. The problem is their defense was such a polar opposite that they would give up the most points or they would give up the most yards, and it just wasn't an evenly matched game. The Chargers sometimes shoot themselves in the foot, and I wonder, and Harbaugh better than I do, but I'm wondering why get rid of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Mike, I guess, made sense. He was injured. You got to pick. I thought they were going to pay one of them and lose the other. And then Keenan Allen goes to the Bears, and then you lose Eckler. Now I'm really wondering. I know that they got Lab McConkey over there in L.A., and they're singing their praises on him, saying he looks like a veteran already. But if that's your wide receiver 1 and you're going from a Keenan Allen who was honestly a 7-9 catch magnet, shout out all the fantasy football players in the stream, but I think Keenan was really one of their surefire targets. I wonder what Justin Herbert, his season's going to look like. And what do you think is the reasoning for Harbaugh coming into LA and just blowing it up? You think he wants a team that's around his fitting? Maybe those 2 guys didn't want to stay. I mean, what happened?
I mean, I think when you look at the makeup of how he built his team and his teams when he was at Michigan, really good offensive line, always had one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the country. He had a really good running back, 1 or 2 running backs, and they played really good defense. Receiver-wise, he had some good receivers that came through that program, but Harbaugh his offense is not predicated on throwing the ball 35, 40 times a game. He's trying to run the ball, and set up the play action off the run game and play good defense and really good special teams. And look, they still got some good receivers over there, even though they lost Mike Williams. And I get it, moving on from Mike Williams, he dealt with a lot of back injuries over the last 2 to 3 years. Keenan Allen's kind of getting up in age. I think that was probably the reason why Harbaugh kind of wanted to move on. He went and got the best offensive lineman in the whole draft in Joe O. And if you know anything about Jim Harbaugh, like I just said, his teams are built off of the offensive line, and that's what he went. That's why he picked Joe Alt in the first round. Uh, Quentin Johnson, who was their first round pick last year out of TCU, I think they expecting big things from him. I think in year two they expected him to take that next step as a starting receiver, right? Joshua Palmer, I think he's a really good receiver. McConkey from
Georgia.
Georgia, I think they got nothing but high praises for him during minicamp. And you got DJ Chalk, right? Shout out LSU once again. DJ Chalk, yeah, his career hasn't panned out how people thought it would, but he's still a deep threat. He's still a receiver out there that can make a lot of plays. I anticipate that he's going to probably catch around 400 to 500 yards and maybe 3 or 4 or 5 touchdowns. And if you do that in a Jim Harbaugh offense, you did your job. But like I say, man, I think Justin Herbert is going to be set up for success. Jim Harbaugh is going to make sure that he takes care of the football. He doesn't have those ill-advised turnovers that probably costed the Chargers 2 or 3 games last year, right? And on defense, man, I think they loaded. I think they loaded with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Derwin James and Asante Samuel. Yep. They added Christian Fulton in free agency. I like this Chargers team, and I think Jim Harbaugh is going to bring a mentality to that team just like he did when he was with the 49ers.
And LA needs it too, because the Chargers have been in a rough spot, and they had a lot of talent, they've had a lot of pieces, and they just need that high standard of excellence. They need that championship expectation. And I mean, hell, who other to pick than the guy that just hosted a national championship trophy? I think it'll work out. And these NFL quarterbacks we just listed, they're all going to be in for big years. They're in the NFL. It's a little more competitive. Obviously, you got the best players in the world, the best of the best. But once you got a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, a Joe Burrow, you've got that confidence in the entire building that makes that entire team just simply better, because they know they have a fighter's chance in every single game. Doesn't matter who you play, doesn't matter when you play, doesn't matter at what point in the season. Every single game, they're going to be able to fight, claw back, no matter the mistake, no matter the situation. I mean, when you can calm your entire team down in the pinnacle of your career, your season, whether it be a Super Bowl, a playoff moment, if you can get your guys bought in on what you've done all season long, that really is what separates the teams that do versus don't. You got to be able to calm down that mental beast whenever all the crap is flying your way, whether it be, the game's not going your way, losses aren't going the way you want them to go, media's reacting one way versus another. You might even have a trade rumor. You might even have a trade. You might have an injury. There's going to be a lot of moments of adversity that'll strike during an NFL season. But top 5 guys we just listed, top 5 guys you listed, I think they're going to be able to handle those moments pretty well. This is the best of the best. That's your upper echelon of NFL quarterbacks, if you will.
Agreed.
Let's move into our last session. You got the NFL draft. Is the NFL draft tomorrow?
NBA draft.
Oh, my bad. NBA draft. NBA draft's tomorrow?
No, it's today. Today and tomorrow.
Okay. I thought it was going to start tomorrow. Normally, I thought it starts on Thursday. Oh, well, my bad. NBA draft. I have to start this off with a warning to my Houston Rockets. Please listen. I know I don't have any pull in this franchise. 0 pull, actually. Mr. Fertitta, if you're watching. But I do want to say, please, listen, please, don't trade Sengun. Please do not trade Sengun. I think he's the guy. He's not going to be your 40-point-a-game, 30-point-a-game guy, no, but he'll give you 25 and 10. Hell, he'll probably give you 25 and 15. I loved Clint Capella. I loved watching him get lobs from James Harden, train in the offseason with the tennis balls. I need a big man in Houston to be able to continue that wave. Was Jabari Smith a decent pick? I don't know. I don't even feel like debating it right now just because I see Sengun. I see what he's been doing. I feel like this guy, if I had to give a loose comparison, I'll throw him up there with someone, maybe not a Kristaps Porzingis because he's not stretching the floor, but he's in the middle of that and a Jokic. He's not as far as a Jokic. Jokic is elite generational talent, but he's a big guy that can play make. He can score. He can take your team to that next level, especially if you develop and put the time into him that I feel like he'll be able to deserve. The league is going to your taller, skinnier players. I mean, look at Wembanyama. Look at all of these guys across the entire league. Chet Holmgren hadn't really panned out yet, but I think Sengun has the makings of an NBA star, and I really, really, really don't want to see them trade him and watch him blow up somewhere else. So I will start off this segment with that. Please do not trade my guy, Big Sengun. But the Rockets have been in the midst of a lot of rumors. You know, they had a little trade yesterday, a pick swap with Brooklyn, and the thing about the pick swap is it loaded them up with a lot of assets that they can move. Do they still have the third pick? Of course, the biggest asset of it all, the cherry on top. I think that this is going to be the reasoning why Houston is in as many rumors as they are. You see the Kevin Durant buzz. Don't start this again. This is Jaylen Brown all over again for me. I'm going to see a Kevin Durant rumor on my Twitter, and I'm going to get excited. I'm going to get my hopes up, and ultimately I'm probably going to get disappointed because that's the longest of the long shots. That's a full court blindfolded backwards with a medicine ball basketball that weighs 10 pounds. I think that is an insane, trade, and it's also a trade that just, it's not that it doesn't make sense, but he just got to Phoenix. They just put it together. I mean, Phoenix, that would be wild if they blew that up so quick. If they don't trade the third pick, the only pick that I see, that they're probably the only pick they're even going to have at their disposal, is going to be the Reed Shepherd pick, the guard from Kentucky. And look, this is no like slight at Reed or anything. He shoots 52% beyond the arc. He's a shooter, but he's not a star. Of course, drafting a young guy is good. You don't got to pay him. You could watch it pan out. Guess what? Houston's drafted at the top of the draft for years now. I'm not tired of it per se, but I want to see us. Let's make a huge move. And if we got to move the number 3 pick to do it, then let's move that pick. Last thing I'm going to say before I give you the floor here, we did see a huge trade. Now, I think this trade might go under the radar for some people, but Mikal Bridges going back with Brunson and Josh Hart. They played at Villanova together. They're pairing up in New York. Oh, man, that Eastern Conference just had a shakeup. The Celtics are running around, holding their trophy, doing their parade, celebrating. Jason Tatum's reaching for any viral moment he can get. And then you got to look at your phone and see that the New York Knicks just not necessarily rebuilt, but Mikal Bridges is a stud. If I saw the notification that he was going to Houston, I'd be on this stream hype as hell right now. Guess what? He's going with his teammates. And I think, look, you even saw Coach Jay talk about it. That's a blessing. You normally don't reunite with college teammates like that, especially at the NBA. You got the whole trio back. You got Brunson, you got Bridges, you got Hart. Plus, you got them in the prime. You got them in the moment when they have been putting it together. Josh Hart grabbing 1,000,000 rebounds a game. Jalen Brunson giving you 40 every night with a twisted ankle, with a hurt leg, with this, with that. 2 ballers, add a third guy in there. And New York, oh man, that got interesting. Plus, let's throw out South Louisiana native Mitchell Robinson. He's also big piece in that room. And I feel like, is he a best center in the NBA? No, but I mean, let's look at the talent that they've got. I feel like New York might have just reloaded and put themselves in a playoff contender conversation, if you ask me. G, what are you looking for the NBA draft?
Man, I mean, I think as we continue to evolve every year, it's clearly turning into an international game, bro. 5 international players projected to go in the top 10. This is continuing to be a consistent theme for the NBA. And the 2 guys from France are supposed to go 1 and 2 or flip-flop it, however you want to do it. But it just shows you where the game is going. You look at Luka Doncic, you look at Rudy Gobert, you look at Porzingis. I mean, the list goes on and on with these international players that's making a mark in the NBA, and you just seeing the NBA just continue to follow the trend when you look at the NBA draft. And so I think that somebody, being a Rockets fan, I think Stephon Castle, the true freshman out of UConn, is somebody I would love to see us pick because of his versatility. I think he's about 6'7", and he's one of those players that I think has one of the biggest upsides in this draft. If you're talking about somebody like the New Orleans Pelicans, right? New Orleans Pelicans need to go big in this draft at that 21st pick because Valanciunas is an unrestricted free agent. And after Zion and Larry Nance, you have no other big on that roster. And so they have to go and find a big man in this draft at the 21st pick. I know they worked out Baylor center, the kid Missy. They worked him out. They loved him in the workout. Now he has a lot to improve on offensively, but defensively, bro, This dude blocked over 3 blocks, and like he averaged like close to 3 blocks a game. Super athletic, does a good job running the flow. And so I think that's somebody they need to go ahead and target at that 21st pick, and especially after you worked him out and you got to see him. And David Griffin talked about how he looked super athletic during the workout. I kind of compare him to somebody like Lively, the kid that came out of Duke that the Mavericks drafted, and you saw how much of a difference he made on that Mavericks team, just rim running, blocking shots, rebounding, just playing a lot of energy. I think Missy could bring that same dynamic to the Pelicans. So I think you see if Missy is there from Baylor, I think David Griffin goes and pulls the trigger. Don't be surprised if Brandon Ingram gets traded tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Do not be surprised. You know, they've been having a lot of rumors swirling that he could be on the move, and they don't want to pay him the max. And so tonight could be the night. The only thing about this draft is that it's not star-studded. It's not a star-studded draft, and so you don't see too many teams thinking about trading up, because there isn't a bona fide pick in this draft where you say, I know for sure he's going to be a superstar in this league, right? And when you're talking about the top 10 picks in the draft, you don't see that. You see a lot of kids with upside, like I said, Stephon Castle, the two kids from France. You see a lot of upside, but you don't see, I know for sure these kids going to have star potential or be a star in the NBA. So that's how I'm evaluating the NBA draft. As we know, man, every year, no matter if it's a star-studded draft or not, you're going to have about 3 or 4 players out this draft that's going to end up being a star or a superstar. You think about somebody like when Halliburton was coming out. Nobody expected Halliburton to be the kind of player he was for the Pacers, or when he got drafted by the Kings, right? Jalen Brunson. Nobody expected Jalen Brunson to be what he was. You know what I'm saying? Draymond Green. So you're going to find some diamond in the roughs in this draft that we're going to look back next year and the year after and say, damn, he ended up being a star in this league. And so even though we're not looking at it and saying it's star-studded, I think you're still going to find some really good star players eventually when we look down the line.
Yeah, 100%. And especially in basketball, it's a lot tougher to find a prospect. And I feel like that's just because of the way the game's moving. You know, you got a position like a center where you used to think, okay, under the rim, being dominant, getting on the glass. Now you got some centers yakking threes, dribbling the ball, crossing people over with a size up. So it's hard to see, you know, all the talent and just try to project them as you would a football player and whatnot. I do want to circle back to that Brandon Ingram comment. I'll be even more brash. Brandon Ingram's out of there. Brandon Ingram's gone from New Orleans. Please don't go to Houston. I mean, if you figure out a good deal for it, I would not mind it. Would Brandon Ingram be an okay addition? Yes. It's not what I'm looking for, though. As a Houston Rockets fan, I feel like you could back me up on this. I want some oomph in this offseason. I want to see something where I'm like, hell yes, I am driving to the Toyota Center every single chance I get. I want to get that feeling again. And I feel like, will Brandon Ingram get me that? No. Partially because I've seen him in the Smoothie King Center, in the blender for quite some time. Great player, not what I'm looking for, though. I do think he's traded from New Orleans. I do think the Brandon Ingram situation, the era, it's over. But I do want to make a note. The last 2 major players, that the Pelicans traded, Drew Holiday, Anthony Davis, both of them. What do they go do? Win a championship with the team that they get traded to. Drew Holiday goes win another championship after that. Now, am I saying Brandon Ingram's destined for a ring? No. I am saying if history repeats itself and it so happens to be on the Houston Rockets, then I won't complain. But I do think if I had to give my biggest hot take on this entire stream on our usual Wednesday meeting, I'd have to say Brandon Ingram is no longer a New Orleans Pelican after this week. Maybe not after tonight, maybe not after tomorrow, but I think push comes to shove here and the Pelicans try to get, you know, some steam going under that squad. And I think it starts with that. You're not trading Zion, you just inked a huge deal with him. I doubt anybody really wants CJ. The only piece you've really got besides the Trey Murphy or Herb, all that, you got to move BI. But I'm not the GM, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the Pelicans do. I'm interested to see, though. 7 o'clock tonight? That's the start time?
I believe so. I think it's for 7 o'clock.
Man, y'all stay tuned. If Brandon Ingram moves, just know we're going to be clipping this stream. 100%. I'm not missing that moment. But thank y'all for tuning in. This has been the Verdin Verdict with G Sports. We're going live every Monday, every Wednesday, every Friday. This Friday, remember, we are doing a little tiny small show. We got something big planned with Peyton and Eli Manning for this weekend. But on Monday at 11 a.m., we're back. We're back. We might even have something else up our sleeve for the Monday show. I ain't gonna ruin the surprise, but just know we working. We working over here. We ain't done.
I might have to go Jack in the Box on you, man. I don't know.
Jack in the Box. G. This has been the Verdin Verdict. Thank you, G, for coming on. I appreciate it. It's been fun, man. We getting that consistency rolling.
No doubt.
Well, y'all, make sure to please hit the like button before you hop out of today's stream. Be on the lookout for me and G's return on Monday at 11 a.m. This has been the Verdin Verdict.